rapid support forces, with civilians facing worsening shortages of food, water and medicine. What must be done to prevent an even broader humanitarian crisis?
The signs from Obeid are clear and unmistakable. Another human rights catastrophe is unfolding in Sudan.
Now, Sudan's war, which began in April 2023 between the Sudanese armed forces and the RSF, has triggered the world's largest humanitarian and displacement crisis. UN figures show at least 330 children killed or injured in the first 6 months of 2026. The UN describes the situation in Obeid and across North Kordofan as particularly alarming. Since May alone, attacks in the state have left more than 35 children dead or injured. So Obeid is home to more than 500,000 residents, including an estimated 100,000 displaced from other parts of Sudan. The city remains under army control, hosting the 5th Infantry Division, an air base, a major oil pipeline, and one of Sudan's largest gum Arabic markets. Obeid sits on a vital route linking army-held eastern Sudan with RSF-controlled Darfur. Whoever controls the city controls a key corridor for people, aid and trade into central Sudan.
We are exhausted. We were displaced from the valley to this location, and the journey to Obeid took more than a month. There are no aid supplies, we need water and food, and many of us are suffering from malnutrition.
Damage to critical infrastructure has left residents cut off from food, clean water, medicine and humanitarian assistance. There are growing fears of waterborne diseases such as cholera, with Sudan's health ministry reporting nearly 1,000 cases across Kordofan by late June. The Yale Humanitarian Research Lab warns the city is also facing severe electricity and fuel shortages.
The camp is suffering from a severe water shortage. There is no water, and we have to walk long distances to fetch it. I walk more than 2 kilometers every day just to bring back a single jerry can.
So the siege of Obeid is increasingly compared to Al-Fasher, that's the capital of North Darfur, which has endured an RSF blockade since October. Aid agencies warn that if Obeid follows the same path, more civilians could be displaced, while hospitals, markets and vital infrastructure face further destruction, and humanitarian aid could become inaccessible.
This is not a drill. It is a red alert that needs to land on the desks of heads of state and government around the world. Their phones should be running hot in the coming days and weeks with ideas on how to prevent atrocity crimes in Obeid and in other places in Kordofan, where the same strategies are being deployed.
All right, let's bring in Ahmed Kabalis, Sudan Affairs analyst and founder of digital media platform African Stream. He joins us from Nairobi. Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed, for making the time. I mean, the situation is clearly dire, but I want you to take us through the most humanitarian needs or most urgent humanitarian needs of civilians in Obeid and just how they're managing to survive under siege conditions.
Well, the population is 500,000. From that 500,000, there's an additional 100,000 who are refugees already displaced by RSF violence elsewhere. And what the RSF has done is it's used them as cannon fodder. So it's attacked civilian infrastructure, attacked electricity, attacked oil depots, hoping that the people will eventually flee so they can take this very strategic, commercial, logistical hub. You know, this has historically been the pathway to Hajj. It's historically been the place where, because of so many pilgrims from West Africa would come through Obeid, it's become kind of a commercial hub within Sudan itself. And obviously the RSF has greater ambitions. It has ambitions to retake Khartoum. It also has ambitions that if it can't retake Khartoum and there's going to be a settlement, that the country will be partitioned, and it would very much like Obeid to be part of its side of the partition. But yeah, we're seeing children being killed, drone strikes constantly. A drone strike, I think it was last week, killed 8 people, decimated a house. Then there's the fear of drone strikes, which will traumatize children for many years to come. Obviously, the education capacity of the citizens there has completely stopped. The ability to feed themselves is severely limited. The cleanliness of the water, it's a microcosm of some of the problems that the whole of Sudan is facing. The UN is saying that over 20 million people that are left in the country are facing acute hunger. That it will be similar proportions of Al Obeid that will be facing dengue fever, cholera diseases, as well as hunger and famine.
Indeed, it's the world's largest humanitarian crisis. I want us to talk about just how real the risk is of Al Obeid falling to the RSF, and in what ways might that mirror or differ from the situation or from what we saw happen in Al Fasher, that must be October last year?
There are obviously some similarities, there are also some differences. So Al Obeid doesn't have the same ethnic composition that Al Fasher had. So, you know, with the what the UN and Amnesty International have described as hallmarks of genocide that we saw in Al Fasher, a lot of that was driven by a racial and ethnic dimension. And, you know, we saw videos of the butcher of Al Fasher, Abu Lula, asking people what tribe they are, and then shooting them, pregnant women 7 times in the belly after they're saying that they're 7 months pregnant, and so on. So it won't have the same ethnic dimension. But what we've seen with the RSF is if they believe that a community has been loyal, quote unquote, to the army or has sided with the army, then they do the same indiscriminate killings anyway. So while it won't be driven by ethnicity, it will be driven by what they perceive to be loyalty to SAF and loyalty to the Sudanese army. So, you know, so we'll still see killings, we'll still see mass executions. We just won't see some of this kind of ethnic language and ethnic slurs that were presented just before people were shot in Al Fasher. The second thing is, after Al Fasher happened, RSF commander, again, Abu Lulu, was brought in front of a RSF tribunal, not because of what he did, but because he videoed it. And he was instructed not to appear on any videos again. So in some ways, Al Fasher shocked the world into action, shocked the world and states into, you know, performative action, but at least they condemned what was going on. Because we're not going to get the videos the same way, the same crimes will be happening. It just won't shock the people's consciousness into pushing their government to act. And the governments need to act. You know, we had Yale Observatory demanding in the UK that the UK government act. The UK has significant influence on the United Arab Emirates. It's one of its primary weapon suppliers. And we've seen reports after reports that the drones that the UK provides to the United Arab Emirates make its way to the battlefield of Sudan.
Even though, Ahmed, I'll have to interject and just say, as you would expect, that the UAE has repeatedly denied that.
Yes, it has. I was just explaining what the Yale researchers said directly to the United Kingdom. That, you know, the drones and also U.S. intelligence reports. We saw U.S. intelligence reports saying that the UAE is arming the RSF, and there's a mountain of evidence. Of course, they will deny it. Of course, they will deny it. Israel denies it's doing anything wrong in Gaza. The perpetrator often denies that it's committing atrocities because it's not really a good look in 2026 where so much information is at people's fingertips and on people's phones. But there is a mountain of evidence that is now piling up. And the UK, the US, the European Union, Belgium, Germany, France are aware of this evidence, and they know the leverage that they have on the principal supplier, allegedly, to the RSF, which is the UAE. And, you know, I've said this before in your program, the RSF doesn't have a weapons making factory. It doesn't have a drone making factory. These weapons don't come out of thin air. It's provided by someone. And now we have a host of human rights organizations, the UN, the Yale, Sudanese research groups that are all pointing in the same direction.
All right. So you brought it up, and I want us to talk more about it as we wind up. The steps, the concrete steps that must be taken by the international community to prevent Obeid from becoming a full-scale humanitarian catastrophe. And I really want to ask about goodwill, political goodwill, to be precise. Do you believe we actually have that to end this war on Sudan as a whole?
Unfortunately not. You know, if we look back to 2003, the Save Darfur campaign, we had huge celebrities like Angelina Jolie, George Clooney. We strangely had the Republican right pushed by evangelical Christians that were all, for their own reasons, not many of them, not always not always because they cared about the Sudanese people, but nonetheless, we had a lot of attention on Sudan. This time round, even though the numbers are a lot bigger, there's a lot more suffering, a lot more wide suffering. We just don't have the political will. So it needs to be articulated to the British public that this is within your national interest. What do I mean by that? You know, right now we're seeing the rise of xenophobic parties. We're seeing the rise of parties that have made migration, quote unquote, illegal migration, their voting issue. Well, one of the biggest groups that migrate to Sudan, to the UK, are from Sudan. Why are they migrating to the UK? Because Sudan's at war. Why is Sudan at war? Because we have international UAE groups like that are arming and facilitating hallmarks of genocide, according to the UN, not my words. So if you want to see the stop of illegal migration, you need to make the places where people are migrating from more safer. Sudanese people don't want to leave. You know, my family were refugees. We were refugees. My dad never wanted to leave Sudan. We want to stay in our homeland, but we can't stay in our homeland if it's unsafe. And we need to make the conditions safe for people to go back. And one of the ways is to stop the flow of arms to the belligerents that have taken up a insurrection against the Sudanese state.
Absolutely. Ahmed Kabalo there, Sudan Affairs Analyst and founder of Africa Stream. Thank you very much, as always, for your time and for such valuable contribution. Still to come here on Africa Matters.
I am Nogokanya Musi in Eswatini, where there are reports of a huge rise of illegal border crossings. The immigration crackdown over the border is pushing migrants into one of the region's smallest and most peaceful nations.
Thousands have joined anti-migrant marches across South Africa, but not everyone supports the movement. A growing number of South Africans are pushing back, saying only the government should enforce immigration laws and that abuse and xenophobia have no place in the country. Tusokumalo reports from Johannesburg.
Abahlali base Freedom Park is a community group based in Freedom Park Township, south of Johannesburg. On June 30, Zimbabwean Precious Mudumi, who built this small grocery shop and has been renting it since 2019, was threatened and told to go.
There were two guys. The one who stays here said, "You are not allowed here. I'm giving you 2 minutes to move out of this shop, and you must not live with anything. You must leave the shop. Tomorrow you must not open. I'm the one who's going to open that shop."
Abahlali base Freedom Park, which also fights for basic service delivery for South Africans, says what Precious experienced was an act of criminality.
We say no to xenophobia, no to Afrophobia, no to oppression and violence against our people, because they are here also looking for a better life. It's not like they are doing any crime.
Other South Africans are helping to feed migrants and making sure they receive dignified and legal treatment.
As people come in, I want to document them, that there is a record of them and where they're going to and their age. So normally we ask the mothers, are you pregnant? Are you expecting any health issues? And then we've had a clinic here where we've sent them to the doctor.
Latest figures show South Africa is home to more than 3 million foreigners, which is about 5% of the population. But ultra-nationalist groups claim that there are 15 million undocumented migrants in the country. As anti-migrant groups intensify their efforts to drive undocumented migrants out of South Africa, many documented migrants have also been victimized. In response, this group of South Africans is working to protect vulnerable foreign nationals. They hold regular meetings, engage with government officials, and visit communities at risk of violence to help ensure South Africa's immigration laws are enforced without encouraging xenophobia, Afrophobia, or abuse of migrants. Anti-migrant groups say they'll be holding their protests every Thursday until all undocumented migrants leave. Tens of thousands of African migrants have been repatriated from South Africa in recent weeks. But for those who are forced or choose to stay, it's unclear how long they will be on the protesters' radar. Tuso Kumalo, Africa Matters, Johannesburg, South Africa.
But the impact of South Africa's anti-migrant sentiment is not only being felt within its borders. Neighbouring Eswatini is now feeling the ripple effects as more migrants attempt to cross into the kingdom. Security forces say they're seeing more of the undocumented migrants attempting to enter the kingdom through informal border crossings, raising questions about border security and regional migration. Nokuhanya Musi reports from the Eswatini-South Africa border.
The rise in violence against migrants in South Africa have forced many to flee back home. Nigeria, Ghana and Uganda are some of the nations who chartered planes to return their citizens to safety. But not all migrants in South Africa are lucky. Others have resorted to crossing the porous border into landlocked Eswatini in the northeastern part of South Africa.
We're seeing people as far as Zimbabwe who are trying to come to Eswatini. And as you can see, the borderline is a little bit porous, and now the strength is a major problem for us as a defense force.
For long stretches, this border between Eswatini and South Africa is marked by little more than strands of barbed wire. This frontier is becoming increasingly important for migrants fleeing the rising violent xenophobia in South Africa. Thousands have been fleeing into Eswatini, putting pressure on its border forces' ability to cope. The Defense Force says most attempted illegal crossings are being detected along the Ngwenya, Oshuk, Lavumisa and Matamo border corridors. Eswatini is home to an estimated 33,000 foreign-born residents, representing about 2.7% of the country's population. Most are documented migrants living and working legally. But organizations that help migrants say any sustained increase in undocumented arrivals could place additional pressure on a country already facing limited resources and high unemployment.
The economy of the country is very, very small, and each time we have an increase in the population through immigrants, it presents huge challenges. More especially for the immigrants themselves, because they come here in need of food, in need of clothes, in need of shelter, which in itself then presents challenges to the government.
While the Ministry of Foreign Affairs declined to comment on the reported increase in undocumented migrants entering Eswatini, officials say their immediate focus remains the welfare of Emaswati living in South Africa as immigration enforcement there intensifies.
We, however, wish to reiterate that Eswatini should still endeavor to make sure that they uphold and respect immigration laws of the Republic of South Africa.
For generations, this border has connected families, trade, and opportunity. Now it is also emerging as one of Southern Africa's newest migration frontlines, testing Eswatini's ability to balance border security with its long tradition of regional openness. Nokukhanya Musi, Africa Matters, Ngwenya, Eswatini.
And across the continent, a different kind of migration is underway, not of people fleeing, but of those returning to their roots. A growing number of French residents with Senegalese heritage are relocating to Senegal as the rise of the far right in France fuels growing unease. Momar Niang reports from Dakar.
Sane Sissoko is gradually getting used to living in Dakar. She made the big move from France in February. In her new apartment, she writes children's books. Sissoko was among the more than 150,000 people with Senegalese roots living in France.
The reasons that led me to come to Senegal are that in France and Europe, we are somewhat aware of the state of system, which is becoming increasingly racist and doesn't leave much room for people from diverse backgrounds to thrive.
While there are no official statistics, a reverse migration appears to be taking place, giving rise to a relocation services industry. Matindom, a Franco-Senegalese, made the move and started a consulting company in Dakar to help others do the same.
Quite a few people reached out to me because of my experience and expertise I could offer.
Ndom also created a podcast to talk about what it takes to move to Senegal. And with her help, Abi Job decided to leave France for Senegal in 2024.
I'm not going to say everything is perfect. Life has its challenges. Dakar is very intense and it's also very polluted. You have to see that side of it too.
Many returnees say they are worried about the rise of far-right groups which propose ending birthright citizenship, restricting welfare benefits, and expelling foreign criminals.
We have some understanding of the core arguments put forward by far-right groups in Europe and France. If you notice in France, Europe, the speech of the far-right is gaining traction, and people who vote for them are motivated by discontent and anger.
Senegal's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has tasked this agency in assisting diasporans to make smart investment. Once they come here, they can benefit from financial advice and also apply for a startup capital.
Currently, we're able to support up to 100 projects by Senegalese living abroad each year.
Dakar has become an inspiration for many people looking for a change from life in France. For people like Sissoko, Senegal offers a chance to not only connect with their African homeland, but to be proud of it too. Momar Nya, Africa Matters, Dakar, Senegal.
And from the politics of migration, we turn now to a story of innovation in Uganda. Single-use plastics are choking local markets, but one Congolese refugee has found a creative solution, turning banana waste into shopping bags, creating jobs for displaced women in the process. Hope Kirubi has the details.
Inside this workshop, traditional skills are being used to drive environmental change. Its founder, Didier Maliki, launched the initiative 6 years ago, shortly after arriving at a refugee settlement. This is Ubu Change, a social enterprise transforming raw plant fibers into durable shopping baskets, locally known as kikapu.
I remember reaching in the refugee camp in Chakatu refugee settlement in 2021, where I spent more than 2 years here. And we faced one challenge when we wanted to go to the markets to buy stuff. We could use Kavera, these polyethylene bags, to buy stuff. And then I remember back in our country, in Congo, especially in all East Africa, we have one culture. When you want to go to markets, you need to have a kikapu to go to buy stuff. And then that kikapu can last for more than 10 years.
The process begins with buying discarded banana stems from local farmers for just 14 US cents each. Displaced women harvest, peel, dry the raw material, and then turn the agricultural waste into tough weaving thread. A weaver needs between 2 and 3 stems to make a bag, and they generally sell for about $5 or more.
It was in 2025 where the World Food Program cut off the support for women. In my community, we had the kind of mindset. For example, if you have a big size of number of family, that is how much money you earn, because World Food Program pay you according to the number of kids you have at home. And then you can see many women had big number of family, big size of family, 5, 7, but they didn't have any source of income.
Shifting mindsets from relying on aid to finding independent revenue has been a challenge. The manual work requires immense patience, taking beginners up to 3 weeks to complete a single basket. But for these women, it's brought both economic and health benefits.
Making baskets has changed my life. It stretches my hands, it stretches the veins and the muscles in my hands.
A well-kept basket can last for over 5 years, proving that profitability and environmental sustainability can go hand in hand. Hope Kirubi, Africa Matters.
That's our show this week. Let us know what you think about the siege of Obeid or any other stories you've seen on this episode. You can leave your comments on our Africa Matters YouTube page or on X. Thanks for watching, and it's goodbye from me, Grace Korea Kanja.